The HFY hunting grounds stretched across 3 moons of the Theshan system. Commander Zethka clicked his mandibles in amusement as he watched the holographic display showing the latest prey being released into the wilderness. His 4 arms moved gracefully over the control panel, zooming in on the terrified faces of various species scrambling for cover. "Look at them scatter," laughed Subcommander Yix, his scaled skin rippling with mirth. "The Andorians are trying to climb trees with those pathetic limbs. Don't they know our sensors can detect heat signatures through any foliage?" The command center erupted with laughter from the assembled HFY officers. They were the galaxy's most feared hunters, standing 12 feet tall, with natural armor plating and enhanced sensory organs that could track prey across star systems. For centuries, they had dominated the Galactic Council through fear and intimidation, turning their traditional hunts into a display of power that kept other species in line. "Sir, we're picking up the transport ship from Sector 7, announced Lieutenant Grax, his tentacle-like appendages dancing over the communication console. "They're requesting permission to dock with a tribute." "Excellent," Zethka purred, his 6 eyes gleaming with anticipation. "That would be the humans, correct? I've heard amusing stories about their primitive combat techniques. Apparently, they still use projectile weapons and chemical explosives." The room filled with derisive laughter once more. The HFY had evolved beyond such crude methods millennia ago. Their plasma cannons could vaporize targets from orbit, their neural disruptors could paralyze entire armies, and their personal shields made them virtually invulnerable to conventional weapons. "I've reviewed their military history," Yix said, pulling up a data stream. "They've barely mastered interstellar travel. Their wars are fought on single planets, sometimes just portions of planets. They think tactics involve moving soldiers around on the ground like pieces on a game board." "How quaint," Zethka mused. "And they sent us 12 of their finest warriors as tribute? They must be desperate to avoid our hunting grounds becoming Earth itself." The tradition was ancient and absolute. Each species in HFY space had to provide tribute in the form of their best warriors for the Great Hunt, held once every solar cycle. Those who refused found their worlds designated as free hunting grounds, their entire populations becoming prey. Most species complied, sending their warriors to die with honor rather than see their civilizations destroyed. "Bring up the profiles of these human warriors," Zethka commanded. The holographic display shifted, showing 12 humans in their military attire. They looked almost comically small compared to HFY standards, standing no more than 6 feet tall with soft, vulnerable skin and only 2 arms. Their faces showed determination, but the HFY saw only weakness. "This one calls himself Sergeant Martinez," Grax read from the file. "Apparently considered one of their elite soldiers. Specializes in something called guerrilla warfare." "Guerrilla?" Yix laughed. "Is that some kind of primitive primate? How fitting." "And this female, Corporal Chun," Grax continued, "expert in survival and evasion. As if anyone has ever evaded a HFY hunting party." The officers examined each profile with growing amusement. Lieutenant Thompson, a demolitions expert. Private Cooper, a sniper. Captain Williams, tactical operations. Each human soldier was presented with their specialties and achievements, all of which seemed laughably inadequate compared to HFY military might. "Sir, the transport is requesting final docking permission," Grax announced. "Granted," Zethka said, rising from his command throne. "Let's welcome our new prey personally. I want to see the fear in their eyes when they realize what they're facing." The command staff moved toward the docking bay, their heavy footsteps echoing through the metal corridors. The hunting station was a marvel of HFY engineering, a massive structure orbiting the largest hunting moon. From here, they could monitor every inch of the hunting grounds, track every heartbeat, observe every desperate attempt at survival. As they entered the docking bay, they saw the human transport ship settling into its berth. It was a small, utilitarian vessel, lacking the elegant weaponry and defensive systems of HFY craft. The boarding ramp lowered with a hiss of hydraulics, and 12 figures emerged. The humans stood in formation, wearing what appeared to be basic combat gear. Their faces were hidden behind primitive helmets with transparent visors. They carried weapons that looked like antiques compared to Krexar technology, solid projectile rifles, combat knives, and various explosive devices that seemed almost quaint. "Welcome to your final destination," Zethka announced, his translator converting his words to the crude human language. "You stand in the presence of the Krexar Hunting Command. Your sacrifice honors your species, though it will do little to save you in the trials ahead." The human in the center, identified as Captain Williams, stepped forward. Through the visor, Zethka could see the man's eyes, steady, calculating, showing none of the fear the commander expected. "We are honored to participate in your tradition," Williams said, his voice carrying through the translator. "We have studied your customs and come prepared." "Prepared?" Yik scoffed. "You come with weapons that belong in a museum and armor that couldn't stop a juvenile Krexar's claw. What preparation could possibly save you?" "We've learned much about survival," Williams replied calmly. "Humanity has a long history of it." The Krexar officers exchanged amused glances. Every species said something similar when they arrived. The Andorians had boasted of their telepathic abilities, the vegan their shape-shifting, the Trill their enhanced reflexes. All had fallen within hours of the hunt beginning. "You'll be transported to the hunting grounds at dawn," Zethka explained. "You'll have 1 hour to disperse before the hunt begins. The rules are simple. Survive for 7 days, and you earn your freedom. Die with honor, and your names will be recorded in our archives as worthy prey." "We understand," Williams said. "Do you?" Zethka leaned down, bringing his massive head closer to the human captain. "In 500 years of hunts, only 3 individuals have survived the full 7 days. None were from species as primitive as yours." "We appreciate the odds," Williams replied, still maintaining that unsettling calm. "Take them to the holding cells," Zethka ordered. "Let them enjoy their last night of life." As the humans were led away, Zethka noticed something odd. They moved with practiced coordination, their heads constantly scanning their surroundings, memorizing every detail. They didn't speak, but he caught subtle hand signals passing between them. It was probably some primitive form of communication, he decided. It wouldn't matter in the hunting grounds. "What do you think?" Yix asked as they watched the humans disappear down the corridor. "Will they provide any entertainment at all?" "Dobeful," Zethka replied. "Their physical limitations are too severe. No natural weapons, no enhanced senses, no defensive capabilities. I predict they'll be eliminated within the first 6 hours." "A pity," Yix said. "I was hoping for something more challenging." The last hunt was over so quickly. They returned to the command center, where preparation for the next day's hunt were already underway. Technicians checked the sensor grids, ensuring every inch of the hunting grounds would be monitored. Weapon specialists prepared the arsenal each Krexar hunter would carry. Medical teams stood ready to collect the bodies, preserving them as trophies for the hunters who made the kills. "Run a final analysis on the human warriors," Zethka ordered. "I want to know everything about their capabilities, limited as they are." The data streamed across the displays. Human physical capabilities were indeed unimpressive by galactic standards. Their strength was minimal, their speed average, their durability laughable. They lacked natural weapons or armor. Their sensory organs were basic, unable to see in most light spectrums or detect pheromone trails. "Look at this," Grax pointed to one data point. "Their endurance levels are surprisingly high for such a weak species. Apparently, they can maintain moderate activity levels for extended periods. Endurance without strength or speed is meaningless," Yix dismissed. "They'll need more than the ability to jog away slowly." "Their psychological profiles are interesting," Grax continued. "High adaptability, strong pack bonding instincts, and something called spite motivation that the translator can't quite define." "Irrelevant," Zethka decided. "Psychology won't stop a plasma bolt or protect them from neural disruption." "Update the betting pools. I want to place a wager on total elimination within 4 hours." The night cycle began on the station, though in space, such distinctions were arbitrary. The Krexar officers retired to their quarters, dreaming of the next day's hunt. In their minds, it was already over, another easy victory, another demonstration of their superiority. In the holding cells, the 12 humans sat in a circle, their helmets removed, speaking in low voices. The Krexiar monitoring them paid little attention. Prey often spent their last night praying to their deities or comforting each other. The guards didn't notice the subtle scratches being made on the cell floor, mapping out terrain features the humans had observed during their transport. They didn't catch the significance of the tapping patterns on the walls, transmitting information in an old Earth code. Captain Williams looked at his team. These men and women who had volunteered for what everyone on Earth knew was a suicide mission. Each had been chosen not for their combat records or physical prowess, but for other qualities the Krexiar would never think to measure. "Remember," Williams said quietly, "they expect us to die like everyone else, running, hiding, fighting desperately with inferior weapons. They've never hunted humans before. They're about to learn why persistence predators dominated Earth," Martinez added with a grim smile. The team continued their preparations, using every second of their remaining time. They had studied hundreds of hours of footage from previous hunts, analyzed Krexiar psychology, and prepared for this moment. Earth's military had sent them with specific equipment, chosen not for its advanced nature, but for its reliability and versatility. As the night cycle continued, the Krexiar dreamed of glory and easy victory. They had no idea that the prey in their holding cells wasn't praying, they were planning. The hunters had laughed at human primitive weapons and tactics, dismissing them as inferior. They would soon discover that humanity hadn't survived on Earth by being the strongest, fastest, or most advanced. They had survived by being clever, adaptable, and absolutely relentless. The Krexiar had invited persistence predators into their hunting grounds, and they had no concept of what that truly meant. The dawn cycle was approaching, and with it, a hunt unlike any in Krexiar history. The artificial dawn broke over the hunting grounds as the transport ship descended through the moon's atmosphere. Inside, the 12 humans made final adjustments to their equipment, each movement precise and economical. The Krexiar pilot announced their arrival with obvious boredom. He had made this trip hundreds of times, delivering prey to their doom. The cargo doors opened to reveal a landscape that would have been beautiful if not for its purpose. 3 distinct biomes spread across the visible terrain. Dense fungal forests with towering mushroom-like growths, crystalline plains that reflected light in dazzling patterns, and rocky canyons carved by ancient rivers long since dried. The Krexiar had chosen this moon specifically for its variety. Different terrains meant different ways to die. "Move out, prey," the pilot commanded. "Your hour begins now." The humans disembarked without a word, their boots hitting the purple-tinted soil with soft thuds. As soon as the transport lifted off, Captain Williams gave a series of hand signals. The team split into 4 groups of 3, each heading in different directions. In the command center orbiting above, Zethka settled into his observation throne with anticipation. The massive holographic display showed the hunting grounds in perfect detail, with 12 red dots representing the human heat signatures moving across the terrain. "They're splitting up," Yix observed. "Predictable. They think smaller groups will be harder to find." "Launch the hunter pods," Zethka commanded. "Let's make this interesting. Deploy teams to each biome and see which humans die first." 36 Krexiar hunters prepared for deployment, checking their plasma weapons and activating their personal shields. Each hunter was a killing machine perfected over millennia of evolution and technological advancement. Their armor could withstand direct hits from most known weapons. Their enhanced muscles could tear through steel, and their hunting instincts were unmatched in the galaxy. The hunter pods launched like meteors, streaking through the atmosphere toward designated landing zones. The Krexiar had generations of hunting tradition on these grounds. They knew every hiding spot, every cave, every potential shelter. There was nowhere the humans could go that hadn't seen prey die before. Team 1 has entered the fungal forest, Grax reported. Teams 2 and 3 are heading for the canyons. Team 4, interesting. They're moving toward the crystalline plains. The plains, Yix laughed. There's no cover there. They'll be visible for kilometers. Perhaps they've already given up hope, Zethka mused. Some prey choose a quick death over prolonged suffering. The first hunter pods touched down, and 12 Krexar warriors emerged into the fungal forest. Their leader, Hunt Master Crix, immediately activated his bioscanner, expecting to see the heat trails of fleeing humans. Instead, he found something odd. Command, I'm reading multiple heat signatures, but they're scattered. Crix reported. Small sources spread throughout the area. On the display, Zethkov frowned. Instead of 3 clear human signatures, the forest showed dozens of tiny heat sources dotting the landscape. Enhance resolution, he ordered. The image clarified, showing what appeared to be small devices attached to the fungal growths, each emitting heat at human body temperature. Decoys, Yix said, incredulous. They brought thermal decoys? Primitivetrice Zethkaschofet. Svichto biorythmice skinning. Their heartbeats will give them away. But the biorhythmic scan revealed more confusion. The rhythm patterns were there, but they were coming from different locations than the heat signatures. Some showed rapid heartbeats indicating panic, others slow rhythms suggesting rest. None of them matched up with visual confirmation of human presence. Hunt Master Crix, proceed with visual tracking, Zethka commanded. These games won't save them. In the forest below, Crix led his team through the towering fungi, their massive forms crushing the smaller growths beneath their feet. They had hunted in these forests countless times, knew every pattern of prey behavior. Prey always ran in straight lines initially, then tried to double back when they thought they'd gained distance. They hid in the hollow fungi or climbed to the canopy. All predictable, all futile, but something was wrong. The ground showed no tracks where the heat signatures indicated human passage. The fungal growths were undisturbed. It was as if the humans had vanished entirely. Sir, one of Crix's hunters called out. I found something. The hunter held up a small device, a heat emitter attached to what looked like a primitive timer. As they watched, it shut off, and another one activated 20 meters away, creating the illusion of movement. Clever prey, Crix admitted grudgingly. But cleverness won't. The explosion knocked him sideways, his shields flaring to life as shrapnel peppered the area. One of his hunters screamed, a sound Crix had never heard from Krexar warrior. He turned to see his subordinate clutching his leg, green blood seeping between his fingers. What happened? Crix demanded. The ground, the wounded hunter gasped. I stepped on something, and it exploded upward below my shield radius. Below the shields? Crix examined the wound. The damage was significant, but not fatal. Krexar were incredibly durable. But the fact that it had happened at all was disturbing. Their shields were calibrated to stop attacks from the front and above where civilized weapons would strike. Who thought to attack from below? In the command center, Zethka watched the incident with growing irritation. One lucky trap won't save them. Continue the hunt. Meanwhile, in the canyons, the second group of Krexar hunters was having their own difficulties. The narrow passages and echoing walls should have made tracking easy. Sound carried far in the rocky corridors. But the hunters were hearing sounds from all directions, overlapping and confusing. Multiple contacts, the hunt leader reported. But the echoes. I can't pinpoint sources. They moved cautiously through the canyon, weapons ready. Every shadow could hide prey. Every corner could conceal an ambush. But as they rounded a bend, they found only more devices, small speakers emitting recorded sounds of human movement and breathing. More tricks, the hunt leader snarled. Fan out. Find the real. The crack of a primitive firearm echoed through the canyon. One of the Krexar stumbled, looking down in surprise at the small hole in his armor's joint. The projectile hadn't penetrated deeply, but it had found a weak spot where the plates connected. There! Another hunter pointed upward. On the cliff, they fired their plasma weapons, turning the cliff face into molten slag. But whoever had been there was already gone, leaving only a distracted heat source to draw their fire. On the crystalline plains, the third group of Krexar faced a different challenge. The humans here hadn't tried to hide at all. They stood in plain sight, 3 small figures against the reflective landscape. Easy targets. Unbelievable, the hunt leader laughed. They're just standing there. Command, are you seeing this? Confirmed, Zethka replied. Proceed with caution. This could be another trick. The Krex AR advanced across the plains, their plasma weapons trained on the stationary humans. At optimal firing range, they paused. Any last words, Prey? The hunt leader called out. The humans didn't respond. They didn't even move. As the Krex AR watched, the figures suddenly collapsed, revealing them to be uniforms stuffed with local materials and propped up with sticks. Decoys again, the hunt leader snarled. Where are the real? The crystalline ground beneath them suddenly gave way. 3 Krex AR fell into a prepared pit, their massive weight having finally broken through the carefully weakened crystal surface. The fall wasn't fatal. Krex AR were too tough for that, but it was disorienting and embarrassing. Get US out, the hunt leader roared from the pit. As his team worked to extract their fallen comrades, something whistled through the air. A primitive explosive device, barely more than chemicals and shrapnel in a metal casing, detonated near the pit's edge. Again, the Krex AR shields held, but the psychological effect was profound. They were being toyed with. Back in the command center, Zethka's amusement had turned to anger. Enough games. Deploy all reserve hunters. Flood the grounds. Leave nowhere to hide. Sir, Brack spoke up hesitantly. The humans, they're not trying to hide. They're trying to slow us down. To what end? Yix demanded. Delaying death by hours means nothing. But as more reports came in, a pattern emerged. The humans weren't just randomly placing traps and decoys. Every incident forced the Krex AR to slow down, to move more carefully, to second-guess their instincts. The hunters, accustomed to prey that fled in terror, found themselves dealing with opponents who struck and vanished, who turned the familiar hunting grounds into a maze of uncertainty. Hunt Master Crick's reporting came a frustrated voice. We found traces of the humans, fragments of equipment, chemical residues from their explosives. They're using some kind of scent-masking compound. Our trackers can't lock onto them. Impossible zitka snaped. Krex AR senses are superior to any technology. They're not using advanced technology, Crix replied. It's mud. They've covered themselves in local mud, mixed with fungal spores. It's confusing our sensors because it registers as part of the environment. In the fungal forest, Sergeant Martinez and his team watched from their concealed position as the Krex AR hunters passed within meters of them. The aliens were magnificent predators, he had to admit, powerful, well-armed, and intelligent. But they had a weakness common to all apex predators. They expected prey to act like prey. Humans had learned different lessons on Earth. When you couldn't match your opponent's strength, you used their strength against them. When you couldn't win a direct fight, you didn't fight directly. And when you were being hunted by something bigger and stronger, you remembered that humans were persistence predators too. Phase 1 complete. Martinez whispered into his short-range radio. They're rattled and bunched up. Initiate Phase 2. Across the hunting grounds, the human teams received the message. Time to show the Krex what it meant to be hunted by a species that had survived ice ages, predators, and each other through sheer stubborn refusal to give up. The real hunt was about to begin, and the hunters were about to become the hunted. Night fell over the hunting grounds, and with it came a shift in the entire dynamic of the hunt. The Krex, accustomed to being the supreme predators, found themselves experiencing something entirely foreign: unease. 24 hours had passed since the hunt began, and not a single human had been killed or even properly sighted. In the command center, Zethka paced before the holographic display, his 6 eyes focused on the scattered reports from the ground. His hunters had suffered no deaths. Krex were too durable for that, but there were injuries. Minor ones, true, but injuries nonetheless. In 5 centuries of hunts, Krex hunters had rarely sustained so much as a scratch. Status report, he demanded. Yix consulted the data streams. 48 hunters deployed. 12 report minor injuries from explosive traps. 6 are suffering from what appears to be chemical irritation. The humans deployed some kind of powder that causes severe itching beneath our scales. 3 are incapacitated. Incapacitated how? Zethka's voice carried a dangerous edge. They consumed field rations left by the humans. The food was laced with a compound that causes severe digestive distress in our species. They're alive, but unable to continue hunting. The command center fell silent. The mighty Krexar, laid low by itching powder and tainted food. It would have been comical if it weren't so humiliating. And the humans? All 12 remain unaccounted for. We found numerous camps, but each one was abandoned hours before our arrival. They seem to be predicting our search patterns. On the ground, Huntmaster Crix crouched in the fungal forest, his team arranged in a defensive circle. They had learned, painfully, not to pursue every sound or heat signature. The darkness that had always been their ally now felt oppressive. Krexar had excellent night vision, but the humans had found ways to exploit even that advantage. A sound echoed through the forest. Laughter. Human laughter, coming from multiple directions. "Show yourselves," Crix roared. "Face us with honor." The laughter continued, now mixed with voices speaking in their primitive language. Crix's translator caught fragments. "Big, scary hunters. Can't find us. Wait till they see what's next." Then silence. Crix's second-in-command leaned closer. "Sir, perhaps we should return to base camp. Regroup with the others, and we do not retreat from prey." Crix snarled. But even as he said it, he wondered, were the humans still prey? Or had the roles somehow reversed? A rustling in the fungal growths made every hunter swing their weapons toward the sound. A small device rolled out, a primitive audio player. A human voice spoke from it, clear and calm. "Hello, hunters. Captain Williams here. We wanted to thank you for the exciting day. Your people were kind enough to explain the rules, survive 7 days, and we go free. We're simply playing by those rules. Oh, and you might want to check your water supplies. We didn't poison them. That would be unsporting. But we did add a harmless marker dye. You'll all have lovely purple tongues for about a week. Consider it a souvenir." The Krexar hunters immediately checked their water reserves. Sure enough, several who had drunk during the day noticed a purple tinge to their mouths. Not harmful, but the implications were clear. The humans had accessed their supplies without being detected. Also, the recording continued. "We've noticed you travel in groups of 12. Smart tactical formation. Unfortunately for you, we've been mapping your patrol patterns all day. Right about now, your other teams should be discovering some surprises we left. Nothing lethal. We're not monsters. But I bet they're pretty frustrated." Explosions echoed from different parts of the hunting grounds. Not weapons, but noisemakers. Bright flares shot into the sky from multiple locations, creating a confusing array of false positions. The Krexar communication channels flooded with reports of harassment, tricks, and ambushes that left hunters embarrassed but alive. "One more thing," William's voice concluded. "You hunt for sport, for glory. We're hunting for survival. That makes us far more dangerous than you realize. Sleep well." The recording device sparked and died, leaving the Krexar in darkness that suddenly felt less friendly. In the crystalline plains, Corporal Chun and her team executed their next phase. They had spent the day studying Krexar movement patterns, noting how the massive aliens favored certain paths, how their weight distribution affected their gait, how their confidence made them predictable. Now, under cover of darkness, they prepared what Chun called the marathon. "Remember," she whispered to her teammates, "we can't outfight them, but humans evolved as persistent hunters. We can outrun anything on Earth given enough time. These Krexar are built for power, not endurance. Time to teach them why ancient humans were feared." They revealed themselves deliberately, standing at the edge of the plains where the Krexar patrol would spot them. When the hunters saw them and gave chase, the humans ran, not in panic but at a measured pace. "Pursue," the Krexar hunt leader commanded. "They're in the open." The chase began. Krexar warriors thundered across the crystalline plains, their powerful legs eating up ground. The humans seemed pitifully slow in comparison. The gap closed to 500 meters, then 300, then 100. And then something strange happened. The gap stopped closing. The humans maintained their pace, steady and relentless. The Krexar, built for explosive action, began to feel the strain. Their massive bodies, perfect for overpowering prey, required enormous energy to move. Their armor, impenetrable in combat, became a weight that sapped their strength. "They're not getting tired," one hunter gasped. "Impossible," the hunt leader snarled, but his own breathing was labored. "We are Krexar." The chase continued. 1 hour. 2. The humans kept running, occasionally dropping small obstacles. Nothing dangerous, just enough to make the Krexar break stride, expend extra energy. The hunters' prideful refusal to give up drove them forward even as their bodies screamed for rest. Finally, after 3 hours, the first Krexar collapsed. The massive warrior simply couldn't continue, his legs trembling with exhaustion. Then another fell. Then another. The humans stopped running. They turned back and observed their pursuers. Some collapsed, others bent double, gasping for air. Chin's team didn't attack. They simply watched for a moment, then jogged away into the darkness, leaving the exhausted Krexar to contemplate what had just happened. They had been run into the ground by prey. In the command center, Zethka watched the debacle unfold with growing horror. His elite hunters, the terror of the galaxy, were being systematically humiliated. Not defeated in glorious combat, but exhausted, tricked, and demoralized. "Sir," Grax spoke carefully, "perhaps we should consider orbital bombardment. In this hunt before what?" Zethka spun on him. "Before the entire galaxy learns that humans made fools of us? That we had to break our own sacred rules because 12 primitive soldiers were too much for 4 dozen Krexar? The Council need never know. The Council knows everything." Zethka roared. "This hunt is broadcast to every member species. They're all watching. If we violate the rules now, we show weakness. The Krexar never show weakness." But even as he spoke, more reports flooded in. The humans in the canyons had turned the narrow passages into a nightmare of echoes and false trails. They struck from above, dropping rocks and primitive explosives, then vanished before retaliation could arrive. They painted false heat signatures on walls, leading hunters into dead ends. They even managed to seal one passage behind a Krexar squad, trapping them until their plasma weapons could melt through. Huntmaster Crick's reporting came a tired voice. "Request permission to establish fortified positions and wait for daylight." Zethka wanted to refuse, to order continued pursuit. But he could hear the exhaustion in Crick's voice. His hunters needed rest, needed to regroup. The thought was galling. Krexar didn't rest during hunts. Prey rested. Prey hid and waited for daylight. "Permission granted," he said finally. "All teams establish defensive positions. We resume at dawn." As the Krexar hunters settled into defensive camps, something unexpected happened. The harassment stopped. No more explosions, no more taunting recordings, no more tricks. Just silence. "They're giving us a break," Yix observed, confused. Why would they do that? Zethka thought he understood. "They're showing us they could continue if they wanted. They're choosing to let us rest." The prey is showing mercy to the hunters. The humiliation of it burned worse than any physical wound. In hidden positions across the hunting grounds, the human teams settled in for a few hours of rest. They had pushed themselves hard, but centuries of military tradition had taught them the importance of pacing. You couldn't maintain peak performance without rest, and they still had 5 days to survive. Captain Williams checked in with each team through their short-range radios. "Outstanding work, everyone. We got them off balance, second-guessing themselves. But don't get cocky. Tomorrow they'll adapt, try new tactics. We need to be ready." The endurance run worked perfectly, Chin reported. "I counted 6 Krexar down from exhaustion. They won't make that mistake again, but the psychological damage is done. Martinez here. We've mapped most of their supply routes. With your permission, I'd like to implement Operation Shopping Trip tomorrow night." Williams smiled in the darkness. "Approved. Remember, nothing lethal. We're proving a point, not starting a war." Thompson here, the demolitions expert, chimed in. "I've identified structural weak points in their main equipment depot. One precisely placed charge could disable their heavy weapons without casualties." "Save it for day 4, Williams decided. "Let them think their tech advantage still matters for a while longer." As the teams settled in for rest, Williams reflected on the deeper strategy at play. Earth's military leadership had been clear. Humanity needed to establish itself as too troublesome to conquer, too dangerous to hunt. Not through superior firepower. They couldn't match the Krexar there. But by being the kind of opponent that turned victory into exhaustion, conquest into endless guerrilla war. The Krexar valued easy victories, displays of dominance. By denying them that, by turning their hunt into a frustrating, exhausting, humiliating ordeal, the humans were attacking something more vital than their bodies, their pride, their very identity as supreme hunters. Day 2 was ending, and the score stood at 12 humans alive, 48 Krexar physically capable, but psychologically shaken. The hunters had learned that their prey didn't follow the rules they expected. Tomorrow, they would learn that the humans were just getting started. In the command center, Zethka stared at the tactical display, showing his scattered, demoralized forces. For the first time in his career, he wondered if perhaps some prey were better left unhunted. But it was too late for such thoughts. The hunt must continue, and, with it, the systematic dismantling of everything the Krexar believed about their place in the galaxy. The humans had 5 more days to survive. The Krexar had 5 more days to endure what they had started to call, in whispered communications they thought the command center couldn't hear, the human horror show. Day 4 dawned with an event that shook the Krexar to their core. As the morning shift arrived at the command center, they found something impossible. A message painted in large letters on the inside of their supposedly impenetrable observation dome. Knock knock. The humans, Zethka, stood frozen, his 6 eyes fixed on the message. The observation dome was 300 meters above ground, surrounded by shield generators and motion sensors. The fact that humans had not only reached it, but had time to paint a message meant they had infiltrated the most secure Krexar facility in the system. Ow! Yix whispered. Security footage revealed the answer, and it only deepened their humiliation. The humans hadn't used advanced technology or superhuman abilities. They had climbed. Using primitive ropes and metal spikes, they had scaled the support structures during the night shift change when sensors were briefly recalibrated. They had timed the shield fluctuations, mapped the blind spots, and executed a climb that would have been impossible for the massive Krexar to even attempt. Sir, Grax reported, his voice shaking, they didn't just paint the message. They also, he paused, struggling to continue, they also left a package in your personal quarters. Zethka rushed to his quarters, finding a small box on his sleeping platform. Inside was a note and one of his personal trophies, a crystalline skull from his first hunt centuries ago. The note read, Commander Zethka, we borrowed this to make a point. Your security focuses on keeping people out, not up. We could have taken all your trophies, but we're not thieves. We're soldiers proving that humans are not prey. Consider this a professional courtesy from one military force to another. P.S. You might want to change your access codes. 1234 is not secure. Captain Williams, the commander, crushed the note in his claws. They had been in his private space. They could have killed him in his sleep. The prey had shown him mercy. On the hunting grounds below, the situation was deteriorating rapidly. 3 days of constant harassment had taken its toll on the Krexar hunters. They were exhausted, demoralized, and increasingly paranoid. Every sound might be a trap. Every shadow might hide a human. Some had stopped eating field rations entirely after more incidents of digestive distress. Others jumped at the slightest noise. Hunt Master Crix tried to maintain discipline, but even he was showing strain. His armor was scorched from multiple explosive encounters. One of his secondary eyes was swollen shut from exposure to some irritant the humans had deployed, and he hadn't slept properly in 2 days. Sir, his lieutenant reported, Squad 3 is reporting something strange. They say the humans are singing. Indeed, from multiple directions across the hunting grounds, human voices rose in harmony. It wasn't the war cries or death songs the Krexar expected from cornered prey. It was something else entirely, rhythmic, almost hypnotic, and maddeningly cheerful. It's called a marching cadence, Sergeant Martinez explained to his team as they prepared their next operation. Psychological Warfare 101. Nothing messes with an enemy's head like hearing their opponents having a good time. The singing continued throughout the day, always from different locations, always just out of reach. The Krexar would converge on one source only to hear it start up behind them. The humans were running circles around them, literally and figuratively. But the real shock came at midday. Lieutenant Thompson and Private Cooper executed the plan they had been preparing since day one. Using the structural weaknesses Thompson had identified, they infiltrated the Krexar field depot. The Krexar had made a crucial error in their arrogance. They had secured their depot against external attack, but never considered infiltration. Why would they? No prey had ever been bold enough to attack their supplies. Thompson placed his charges with surgical precision while Cooper stood watch. They weren't trying to destroy everything. That would escalate beyond their mission parameters. Instead, they targeted specific systems. The explosions, when they came, were almost surgical. The plasma weapon charging stations overloaded, rendering dozens of weapons useless. The shield generator maintenance bay suffered a critical failure that would take days to repair. Most humiliatingly, the Krexar's food synthesizers were reprogrammed to produce nothing but a purple paste that smelled like earth skunks. Depot compromised, came the panicked report. Primary weapons offline. Shields at 30% capacity. Food systems are producing some kind of biological weapon. It's not a weapon. William's voice came over a commandeered communication channel. It's called surströmming. It's a delicacy on Earth. Well, in some parts. The smell is unfortunate, but it's quite nutritious. You're welcome. The Krexar hunters found themselves in an impossible position. Their technological advantages were being systematically stripped away. Without plasma weapons, they still had their physical strength, but the humans had proven expert at avoiding direct confrontation. Without full shields, they were vulnerable to the constant barrage of primitive explosives and traps. Sir, Yix approached Zethka carefully. Perhaps we should consider negotiating. We do not negotiate with prey. Zethka roared, but the protest sounded hollow even to him. Are they still prey? Yix asked quietly. They've infiltrated our command center, disabled our depot, and haven't lost a single member. At what point do we acknowledge that we're not hunting them anymore? They're hunting us. As if to emphasize this point, reports came in of a new development. The humans had started leaving care packages for exhausted Krexar hunters. Water, undyed, basic medical supplies for their minor injuries, and notes suggesting they take a break and hydrate properly. One note, left by Corporal Chen's team, was particularly cutting. Hey big guys, noticed you were looking tired. Endurance hunting is rough, isn't it? Here's some electrolyte powder. It'll help with the cramps. Remember to stretch. Your friendly neighborhood humans. P.S. Only 3 more days to go. They're not just beating us, one hunt leader reported, his voice hollow. They're mothering us. That night, as the Krexar tried to establish some semblance of control, the humans launched their most ambitious operation yet. Martinez's team, having spent days mapping supply routes and studying Krexar logistics, executed Operation Shopping Trip. They didn't just raid supplies. They reorganized them. Krexar hunters across the grounds woke to find their equipment caches rearranged with almost obsessive precision. Items were sorted by size, color, and function. Inventory lists were posted with helpful suggestions for more efficient organization. Weapons were cleaned and maintained, then disabled with carefully placed pins that would take hours to locate and remove. One cache included a hand-drawn diagram labeled suggested improvements to Krexar field kit organization, with annotations like heavy items at bottom and emergency supplies should be easily accessible. The message was clear. The humans had had complete access to their supplies, again, and had chosen to organize rather than destroy. It was a level of psychological warfare the Krexar had never encountered. Report from Hunt Squad 7. Came a defeated voice over comms. The humans left us a fully cooked meal with heating instructions. It's actually quite good. They seasoned it properly for our palate. There's even a dessert course. Zethka closed all 6 eyes in despair. His hunters were being fed by their prey. The mighty Krexar, terror of the galaxy, We're being treated like children who couldn't take care of themselves. Commander, Grax said softly, we're receiving a priority message from the Galactic Council. They're concerned about the broadcast footage. What do they say? The vegan representative asked if the Krexar need assistance. The Andorians are offering to send humanitarian aid. The Trill. Grax paused. The Trill are laughing, sir. Publicly. The humiliation was complete. The entire galaxy was watching the Krexar being systematically demolished, not through violence, but through endurance, cleverness, and an almost insulting level of consideration. As Day 4 ended, Williams gathered his teams for a brief meeting in one of the many hidden camps they had established. 2 more days, he said simply. We've broken their confidence, disrupted their operations, and proven that humans are not easy prey. But they're going to get desperate. Wounded pride makes any predator dangerous. What's the plan? Martinez asked. We maintain pressure, but stay smart. No unnecessary risks. We've already accomplished more than Earth Command hoped. Each day we survive adds to the legend. Each trick we pull makes other species think twice about designating humans as prey. The care packages were brilliant, Chen added. The psychological impact of being cared for by prey, you could see it in their body language. They don't know how to process it. That's the point, Williams nodded. We're rewriting their entire worldview. Prey runs. Prey hides. Hides. We're doing none of that. We're out-thinking, out-enduring, and out-maneuvering them while showing enough restraint to prove we're civilized. It's the perfect message to the Council. Thompson, cleaning his demolition kit, grinned. About one more surprise plan for Day 6. Something that'll really make them think. Nothing too dramatic, Williams warned. We want to leave them confused and embarrassed, not start an interstellar war. Trust me, sir. It'll be perfect. As the humans settled in for another few hours of rest, the Krexar hunters huddled in their camps, afraid to sleep, afraid to hunt, afraid to return to base, and admit defeat. For days ago, they had laughed at the primitive humans with their projectile weapons and basic armor. Now, those same humans moved like ghosts through terrain the Krexar had thought they owned. They struck without warning, showed mercy without weakness, and demonstrated a form of warfare that made the Krexar's brute force approach look like the primitive tactic. In the command center, Zethka stared at the tactical display, showing his scattered, demoralized forces. The 12 red dots representing the humans moved with confidence, no longer trying to hide their positions. Why should they? They had proven they could go wherever they wanted. Sir, Yik said quietly, what do we do when they survive all 7 days? If they survive, Zethka corrected without conviction. When they survive, Yix insisted. What do we tell the Council? What do we tell our people? Zethka had no answer. How did you explain that humanity's primitive persistence and clever tricks had defeated the galaxy's greatest hunters? How did you admit that 12 humans had reduced dozens of Krexar to paranoid, exhausted shadows of themselves? You didn't. You simply endured the remaining days and hoped the galaxy might somehow forget. But as human laughter echoed again across the hunting grounds, Zethka knew the galaxy would never forget. The humans had made sure of that. The final day began with an image that would haunt Krexar military history forever. As the sun rose over the hunting grounds, every single Krexar hunter woke to find something impossible beside them. A photograph printed on primitive paper showing them sleeping. In each image, a human soldier stood next to the unconscious Krexar, smiling and making what Williams had explained was a peace sign with their fingers. The implications hit like a plasma bolt to the chest. While the mighty hunters slept, exhausted from 6 days of futility, the humans had approached close enough to touch them, close enough to kill. And, instead, they had taken souvenirs. Huntmaster Crix held his photo with trembling claws. In it, Sergeant Martinez stood beside him, grinning widely. There was even a timestamp, 0300 hours. They had been there for who knows how long, just taking pictures. Command! Crix roared into his communicator. The humans were here, all of us. They could have, we know, Zethka's defeated voice responded. They left photos here too. Every commanding officer. Every strategic position. His voice cracked, they even left a group photo of all 12 of them in the main command center, sitting in our chairs, wearing makeshift crowns made from local vegetation. The photo in question showed the human squad gathered around Zeth Ka's command throne, Captain Williams seated in it with exaggerated regality, while his soldiers posed around him like a sports team that had just won a championship. The timestamp showed 0400 hours, while Zeth Ka had been sleeping not 50 meters away. Sir, Grax reported, studying his console, we're detecting all 12 human signatures. They're converging on the Central Plaza. The Central Plaza was a ceremonial ground where successful hunts were traditionally concluded, where prey went to die with honor, or hunters celebrated their victories. The humans were walking there openly, no longer bothering to hide. They're surrendering? Yix asked hopefully. No, Zeth Ka said quietly. They're making a statement. Every available Krexiar hunter converged on the plaza, forming a circle around the 12 humans who stood in formal military formation. Their primitive armor was dirty and showed signs of hard use, but they stood tall. They had survived 7 days. By Krexiar law, they were free to go, but they weren't leaving. Not yet. Captain Williams stepped forward, and his amplified voice carried across the plaza and into every broadcast feed watching across the galaxy. Commander Zeth Ka, hunt masters of the Krexiar Empire, we stand before you not as prey, but as fellow soldiers. We have completed your challenge. For 7 days, we have survived your hunt. But more than that, we have shown you something important. He paused, letting his words sink in. Humanity does not seek war with the Krexiar. We respect your strength, your traditions, and your place in the galaxy. But we need you to understand something about us. We are persistence predators. We are problem solvers. We are survivors. And, most importantly, we are not prey. Martinez stepped forward, placing a bundle on the ground. We've collected some things during our stay. Thought you might want them back. The bundle contained dozens of Krexiar equipment pieces, small items that had gone missing over the week, personal decorations, honor badges, even a few trophy teeth that senior hunters wore as status symbols. All carefully cleaned and organized. We could have kept these as our own trophies, Williams continued. But that's not who we are. We don't need to take from others to prove our worth. Our survival is proof enough. Thompson and Cooper stepped forward with another package. Inside were detailed maps and notes. These are the locations of every trap, every device, every cache we established, Thompson explained. We're disarming them all, but we thought you should have the technical specifications. Some of your younger hunters might find them educational. Chun added her own contribution, a medical kit with detailed notes on treating the various minor injuries and irritations the Krexiar had suffered. The fungal spore rash will clear up in about 3 days, she said helpfully. The itching powder responds well to a paste made from local mud mixed with those blue flowers near the river. We've included samples. One by one, each human stepped forward with something to return or share. Borrowed equipment, helpful notes, even recipes for trail food that would suit Krexiar physiology better than their standard rations. The watching galaxy saw something unprecedented, prey that had not only survived, but was now giving hunting advice to their predators. We have one final gift, Williams announced. He produced a thick manual, handwritten and illustrated. This is a complete after-action report of our 7 days here. Every tactic we used, every weakness we exploited, every assumption you made that we turned against you. Consider it a training manual for future hunts. He offered it to Zeth Ka, who had descended from the command center to witness this unprecedented moment. Why? Zeth Ka asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Why show us mercy? Why help us? William smiled. Because strength isn't just about winning. It's about knowing when to fight and when to extend a hand. Humanity wants allies, not enemies. We want trading partners, not conquests. We've proven we can't be hunted. Now we're proving we can be trusted. Besides, Martinez added with a grin, you guys gave us the best training exercise we've had in years. Our military academies are going to love the footage. Footage? Crick sputtered. Oh yeah, Cooper said cheerfully. We've been recording everything. Great training material. How to defeat a technologically superior force using persistence and psychological warfare. It'll be a classic. The humiliation should have been complete, but somehow the humans' genuine friendliness took the sting out of it. They weren't gloating. They were sharing, teaching, offering partnership instead of domination. The Galactic Council will need to be informed, Zethka said slowly. Humanity is not suitable for hunting. We'd appreciate that, Williams nodded. We'd also like to propose something. Human military advisors, available to train other species in asymmetric warfare techniques. In exchange, we'd love to learn about your technology, your cultures, your own military traditions. Everybody benefits. You want to teach others to humiliate us as you have? Ix asked. We want to teach others to defend themselves, Chen corrected. The galaxy is big. There are threats out there worse than hunting games. Species need to know they have options beyond just being strong. Sometimes being smart and stubborn is enough. The plaza fell silent as the magnitude of what had happened settled in. The humans had not just survived, they had transformed the entire concept of the hunt. They had turned it from a demonstration of Krexar dominance into a lesson in human adaptability. There's one more thing, Williams said. He reached into his pack and pulled out 12 small packages. Gifts, one for each member of your command staff. Zethka opened his package to find a small metal pin, a pair of wings surrounding a planet. Earth's military jump wings, modified with Krexar script reading Honorary Graduate, Human Persistence Hunting Course. You survived 7 days of US, Williams explained. That deserves recognition. Despite everything, despite the humiliation and frustration and complete upheaval of their worldview, Crix found himself laughing. It started as a low rumble and built into full Krexar mirth. Soon others joined him. You humans, he managed between laughs. You took our greatest tradition and turned it into a learning experience, Williams supplied helpfully. Yes, a learning experience where the prey teaches the predators, the hunted become the hunters, and everyone goes home confused but alive. That's the human way, Martinez shrugged. We're complicated like that. As the laughter died down, Zethka made a decision that would reshape galactic politics. Captain Williams, on behalf of the Krexar Empire, I formally acknowledge that humanity has passed the trial of the hunt. More than passed, you have transformed it. I will recommend to the Council that Earth be granted full membership and protection under galactic law. Furthermore, he continued, his voice carrying the weight of authority, I hereby commission the first human Krexar military exchange program. We have much to learn from each other. The gathered Krexar hunters, exhausted and humbled but somehow not broken, murmured their agreement. They had been defeated not by superior force, but by superior thinking. It was a lesson worth learning. As the transport ship arrived to collect the human soldiers, now free citizens of the galaxy rather than tribute, Williams turned back to Zethka one last time. Commander, you asked why we showed mercy. The truth is, we've been the underdog on Earth for millions of years. We survived by being smart, by working together, and by never giving up. But we also survive by knowing that today's enemy might be tomorrow's ally. The wolf that hunts you today might be the dog that guards your children tomorrow. You see us as future allies? After we tried to hunt you for sport, you gave us a chance to prove ourselves. You followed your own rules, even when we made it embarrassing for you. That shows honor. Honor we can work with. As the humans boarded their transport, Crix called out, Captain, one question. The laughing, the singing, the care packages, was that all planned? Williams grinned. Some of it. But honestly, after day 3, we were kind of making it up as we went. Humans are good at improvising. And the photos? Oh, that was Private Cooper's idea. He said his kids would never believe him otherwise. You have to admit, you all look pretty peaceful when you're sleeping. The transport lifted off, carrying 12 humans who had entered as prey and left as legends. The watching galaxy had seen something unprecedented. The mighty Krexar brought low not by force, but by endurance, intelligence, and an almost aggressive level of friendliness. In the command center, Zethka looked at the manual Williams had left behind. The first page had a handwritten note. To our new friends, the Crex AR. Thank you for the most interesting week of our lives. We hope this manual helps you understand how we think. Remember, it's not about being the strongest or having the best weapons. It's about being too stubborn to quit and too smart to fight fair. Welcome to the human way of war. Try not to use it on anyone we like. The Dirty Dozen, that's what we're calling ourselves now. Below there was a group photo of the 12 humans, taken in front of the command center they had infiltrated, all smiling and making peace signs. Zethkov found himself doing something he hadn't done in centuries. He smiled. Then he opened the manual and began to read, eager to understand these impossible creatures who had turned hunters into students and prey into teachers. The great hunt was over. The lessons learned would reshape the galaxy. And somewhere in space, 12 human soldiers were composing their after-action reports, trying to explain to Earth's military command how they had won a war by refusing to fight it. The Galactic Council's next session would be very interesting indeed. The Crex AR would have to explain how they had been defeated by persistence, pranks, and politeness. The humans would have to explain why they thought leaving helpful notes for their hunters was a valid military tactic. And the entire galaxy would have to reconsider what it meant to be strong in a universe where 12 humans with basic equipment could humble an empire through sheer stubborn refusal to act like prey. The age of human expansion had begun, not with conquest, but with confusion, not with weapons, but with wit. And across the galaxy, military academies began adding a new course to their curricula: asymmetric warfare and the human approach, when losing is winning and mercy is strength. The Crex AR never hunted humans again, but they did hire them as consultants.